Georgia, Tennessee, Saturday, 3:30 Eastern kickoff, right there in Neyland Stadium on ABC. The market has corrected on this one. Whew, violent swing on the old odds board here. You see at the bottom of your screen if you're watching on YouTube, Georgia minus 3.5. Well, they weren't a couple of days ago. They were 7.5-point favorites when this thing first opened, and I got hammered down to 3.5. I'll tell you what the model thinks on it in a little while. I trust Georgia so much in spots like these. That's earned trust, earned respect. It's not that they're invincible. Sure, Tennessee can win this game. Sure they can. But they've got to beat Georgia. Now, that sounds very, very academic. Well, of course, to win the game, they have to beat them. No, this is college football. A lot of times, especially when a team, new quarterback, breaking in new pieces, they go on the road for the first time, a lot of those outfits tend to beat themselves. I just don't think Georgia's one of those. So if you're going to beat them, you got your work cut out for you. You will have to do absolutely that. You'll have to beat them. To me, the most shocking outcome here would not be Georgia losing. Tennessee's a good team. The most shocking outcome would be me watching it and at the end of the day saying, Tennessee didn't really do anything all that special. Kind of like we talked about the Florida USF game the other day. USF didn't do anything all that special. Florida just, kind of gave this game away. I doubt we're saying that about Georgia as the sun goes down Saturday. But it is a cannot versus have-not situation, We see this every now and then in college football when something hasn't happened in a long time. In that case, for instance, paper popper here, close your ears in Knoxville, 8 in a row. That's the streak Georgia has over Tennessee, 13 of the last 15. So there's a lot of that leads people to think, well, Heupel/Tennessee cannot beat Kirby Smart/Georgia. That's not true. They just have not. We're, 3 years removed from turning the cannot beat Alabama into a had not beaten Alabama. But now they've beaten them 2 out of the last 3 years. Oh, all it took was Saban retiring. Wrong. They did it to Saban before he retired. Maybe they'll clip Kirby here. Don't say cannot. It's a have not situation. Tennessee, though, last year, we went to this game last year, they thought 2 things, and both of those things were wrong. And they need to be more right about these couple of things this year. The first thing they thought last year was they had an edge at quarterback, even on the road. They thought Nico Iamaleava, this is what we recruited him here for. This is what we invested in him for. Carson Beck's looked shaky this year so far. Georgia was already a 2-loss team by the time they played this game last year. And so Tennessee, they're coming off the Bama win. A couple of weeks later, they're going down there, and this is the moment where we're going to take them down. And we got 2 edges or so we think. Quarterback's going to be an edge for us, and we got the better run game. And neither one of those really played out. Beck thoroughly outplayed Nico Iamaleava. A padlock stat from this game last year, Georgia was 11-1 edge on passes of 15-plus yards. They had the explosive pass in their back pocket. Tennessee did not. The run games were pretty even. But remember, Tennessee got up to a 10-0 lead in this game, and Georgia just boat races them, 31-7 the rest of the way. So Carson Beck went off in that game. Is that what Georgia needs this year? What kind of game, what kind of profile does this game have this year? How do you cut the head off the snake, which Tennessee has been unable to do? The way you cut the head off the snake, which is what you have to do to take Georgia down, is you got to match physicality. Now, to their credit, I thought this was maybe one of, if not the hardest hitting games we saw last year. Tennessee does not struggle to match physicality. They are an extremely physical team. You got to be able to run the ball effectively. That's what Tennessee does best and has for a long time under Josh Heupel. You can always pick the ones who do versus don't watch Tennessee games out by how they describe Heupel's offense. Kirby talked about this earlier this week. It's been a running theme on this show. If you want to spot the ones who do watch the games versus claim to watch the games, ask them to describe Josh Heupel's offense. Because the ones who talk about it like it's air raid, pinball, basketball on grass, they're posing. They don't watch the games. This is a run-based offense. They rush it for 2,500 plus every year. This game last year, they ran it okay. No one feared that they could throw it over the top. So if you tell Kirby Smart, hey, we want to run the ball, but also we can't stretch the field on you vertically, it's a losing proposition. Don't really care who his personnel is. His personnel is going to be good enough. So you got to be able to run the ball effectively. You got to be able to limit their run. And I think there's a lot that remains to be seen about the Georgia run game. They've looked markedly improved from last year. But this is a much bigger stage. They haven't played quality competition either. For as much as people are saying that about Tennessee, same with Georgia. And you've got to dare Gunnar Stockton to beat you, and you got to trust Joey Aguilar to beat them. If that sounds scary, it's because it is. There are no sure things here. You got to take some chances. Georgia still has a roster advantage on you, not a gigantic one, but they do. So you got to find little edges here and there where you can, and one of them is, to my surprise, Joey Aguilar has looked like he's been playing in the system for a while so far this year. It's just that the competition level ramps up, the pressure level ramps up so significantly this week that maybe he's just got it. And if he's that guy, Tennessee may win this game. That's why we play the games. I just keep listening to people talk about how bad Georgia's looked offensively. Oh, Josh, have you seen how poorly they have looked? And it's everything that they're saying about Georgia's offense has one thing in common. It's all past tense. Hey, really quick timeout. We'll get right back to the video. Do me one favor. Make sure you're subscribed. It helps us keep the show free. It helps us keep the lights on. It helps us keep doing college football year-round, and we appreciate it. All right, back to the video. I don't really care what they have looked like. I care what they will look like. And I have this sneaking suspicion, because I've watched this guy coach for like a decade almost now. Has it been a decade? Almost a decade. Anyway, Kirby Jeremitrius Smart does not normally run inefficient offenses out there. Now, they may not throw for 550, but they don't really care to throw for 550. What they care to do is be balanced. Last year, tight ends put Tennessee in a blender. Mike Bobo, look, I know this is a headline that they don't like hearing in Athens, had a really, really good game against Tim Banks last year. And they find ways to win, and they tailor their treatment to get offensive linemen back for this game, and they go and get wide receivers out of the portal, knowing full well we're really not going to unleash whatever we do with those guys until we can branch up against the star position on Tennessee's defense. Like, I don't care. I could not care less what a 2-hour rain delay and complete lethargic nature against Austin Peay means for this game. It means nothing for this game. So, Joey Aguilar versus Kirby Smart's defense. Now, he's at home, but it makes me think about last week. It makes me think about listening to Bryce Underwood and the hype around him and seeing him go against Brent Venables, and he was rendered pretty helpless. Now, in that case, it was because he didn't have guys to throw to. Gunnar Stockton has guys to throw to. Can he pull the trigger? Can he be effective? I mean, one thing that's a hallmark that you hear people say anytime they're talking about him is ball control, ball security, makes good decisions. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. It's Georgia. They've surrounded you with plenty good enough players, even to go on the road and win games like this. Tennessee has not consistently stretched the field. They have not consistently hit big plays through the air. This is a several-year problem for them now, and they just flat out have to do it. All the rest of the stuff notwithstanding, they just got to at least make Georgia concerned that, hey, this kid could pop us over the top if we're not careful here. You know why we know? Because he did it in the first quarter. That would be a game changer here. Otherwise, the field gets compressed and it's nothing. It's outside the opening script, which you hit them with last year, you're just shut down. That's how it happened last year. That's how it will happen again if they can't stretch the field. So what I also wonder is how much pressure Tennessee is able to get without blitzing. Because there is a world where Georgia's offensive line is not fully gelled here, and it looks like we'll get some guys back on that right side, which couldn't come soon enough. But I don't know what to expect from that offensive line. Now, I know Oklahoma last week was put to the test, and they passed that test. So maybe Georgia goes on the road here, and maybe the statement of the game is the pressure or lack thereof that Gunnar Stockton was put under. And you got to understand something. If you got a superstar quarterback, there's a tendency psychologically for a team to go in a game thinking like Cam Ward with Miami last year. Well, even if all else fails, he'll bail us out. No one's thinking that about Gunnar Stockton. So there is a keen awareness in that offensive line room that this game kind of rests on our shoulders. And that's pretty common at Georgia. But there's something that does to you, especially when you're going on the road, first game in conference play. Look, those guys have a challenge on their hands, but it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world if Georgia wins this and it's because that offensive line really, really performed above general expectation. Maybe the ground game did as well. But if it's Georgia just running the ball, it's academic. So that goes without saying. But they went and loaded up the wide receiver room. And I wonder, do they need those guys in this game? And if they do, is this the time where we see a couple of those guys break out? Because there's really good versatility and depth in that room. But overall, it's just I'm waiting for Tennessee to finally make it happen in this matchup. And the mentality I have is while I'll sit there and say, stop saying they can't, stop saying they can't, it's also fair to say, I'm going to make Georgia prove me wrong by losing instead of prove me wrong by winning. So here's what FanDuel thinks about the game right now. Georgia's favored by 3.5. Our model pretty much agrees. Georgia minus about 3. I think 3 1/10 of a point. Yeah, I'm riding with Kirby Smart in Georgia, and I'm just going to make Tennessee prove me wrong. And they have. They did against Bama a few years ago, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. I think there is vulnerability. I think there's a lot of unknown for Georgia. That's why I go back to what that G means to me. Independent of the individual personnel groupings, that G to me means it's a consistent outfit, and when they go on the road, they can handle business, and if you beat them, you got to do just that. You got to beat them. They're not going to hand you a game. And they're going to have better athletes than you, and you got to beat them as they don't hand you the game. Now, I could be wrong, fence riding, according to some, but if I am wrong, I'm going to make Tennessee prove me wrong by pulling the mild upset there.